evening, my dear friends, masters, and gods. Uh, Before I start my speech, my pranams to Ascended Master Mahavatar Babaji, my pranams to Great Grandmaster Pidamaga Brahmarishi Dr. Batriji Sir, my pranams to Great Grandmaster Mahavatar Foundation Founder Guruji Thiru Ranganathan Sir, my pranams to all masters and friends, my pranams to this universe. Today, on the day of the special program, on 16/8/2025, Saturday, I am to speak on the responsibility of the spiritual man. First, I will speak about something about spirituality. The spiritual man is one who has realized something of it, even if only in one aspect out of many. One who is striving after it is the spiritual speaker, spiritual seeker. All else, however, magnificently intellectual, ethical, aesthetically beautiful and harmonious, vitally splendid, great and forceful, or physically perfect is a valuable achievement on the way, but not yet that for one has not passed the Rubicon of mind into a new empire. To earn for the family and carry out our social domestic duties is to be a good man, a perfect citizen, a patriot, worker for the community, to serve mankind are the real things, far more spiritual than to sit in idle meditation, seeking for some remote and invisible transcendental reality or unreality. Philanthropy, altruism, service, selfless labor for humankind, these are all spiritual submits. True selflessness lies there to sacrifice or offer one's life to the good of others, to the community, to the race, to seek one's own inner spiritual growth, to draw back from ordinary life in order to reach something beyond, to search after the divine above humanity is mere egoism, not true spirituality, but an aberration, a misdirection of the will and life. What is the responsibility of a spiritual man in times of crisis, local, national, or international? The answer by an average man is likely to be the question does not arise because spiritual people are an impractical lot. They are out of touch with the realities of life. They are lost in the clouds of philosophical speculations or crystal guessing. Certainly, they have no responsibilities, and if we were to give them any, they are sure to make a mess of things. When a man turns spiritual or when he is awakened spirituality, he gives up his worldly interest, withdraws to retreats, devotes himself to scriptures, meditations, pujas, and the like. He is lost to the world. This turn of Indian spirituality has earned us a name that we are a fatalistic people, that we do not believe in the worth of life in the world. There are enough philosophers with mighty tomes to prove that we do not exist. We exist only in the minds of those who think they see us. All is an illusion, or the world is an inferior reality. As we grow mature, we begin to realize that it is a figment of some cosmic imagination, somehow playing on the white bosom of the immutable Brahman. It is folly to concern ourselves with the problems that do not really exist. Of course, there are treatises like the Gita, which in some passages make a concession. They speak of Loga Sangraha. They say we have to devote ourselves to the welfare of those around us as long as we move in this world ignorance. But the ideal solution is to find a way out. That this was not the character of Indian spirituality from the beginning is another matter to which we will turn later. This unfortunate turn started in the downward curve of Indian civilization. While the Indian vitality started ebbing after a long innings of vigorous life, these narrowing movements depreciating life started gathering force. Life lost its elasticity. Spirituality and material life came to be separated from each other. However, during the past decades of human evolution, the human consciousness has advanced so rapidly that there are no longer such trenchant divisions in life. Sectors of life overlap each other. The scientist finds himself rubbing shoulders with the spiritualist. The modern man, be a scientist or spiritualist, does not believe that life is an illusion. He believes that the world is as real as he is. And if a problem is urgent to one, it is equally urgent to another. Both share the same earth and share the same problems. In fact, the responsibility is more on the spiritualists who claim to have evolved a higher consciousness, who has gained a larger perspective. The world has a right to demand a greater attention and a more sincere service from a person who practices or claims to practice spiritual life. This is modern spirituality everywhere. There is no gulf, no demarcation between life and spirituality. The spirituality is not one who turns away from life, but he is one who sounds the depth of spirit which give reality to all of us, reality to the whole world. If a speaker of the spirit, seeker of God, goes into meditation, goes into the trance, prays to God, practices any discipline, he touches certain depths of consciousness, levels of being where he comes into a spontaneous contact with the consciousness or the awareness of others. He feels their problems more acutely than a politician or an administrator can conceivably do. He is more alive to the problems of the distressed. When a spiritual seeker looks into himself with a certain detachment that is expected of him, relieving himself from a total involvement in his own personal life of desire and egoism, he analyzes and sees that the physical body, so real and urgent to him, is made up of various elements drawn from one common physical matter. He looks into his life force and analyzes how far it is his own. He is amazed to find that it is one's life force, one life energy, the prana shakti that is moving all over the world. And it is only a wave of it that is embodied in his body and he calls it his own. He looks elsewhere, he looks into his mind and sees how far the mind in his own. He is surprised to find that the thoughts which he thinks his own are really thoughts coming from the general atmosphere, from what he has read, from what he has heard. Thoughts come as manufactured goods into his mind, known and unknown. And his mind itself is a fragment of the universal mind. He is a part of the universal matter, he is a part of universal life, he is a part of universal mind. Then what else is left? Then he should call himself his soul. We may say, very well. What is a soul? The soul is nothing but a fragment, a projected and a willed fragment of the great reality that ensouls this universe. There is a great Godhead, call it by whatever name, we do not dispute about the name. There is a divine reality which pervades this universe and our soul. My soul are only sparks from this universal fire of the old Upanishad. Once we recognize the fact, where is the line of demarcation between the outside and inside, For a spiritual man, there are no frontiers between his personal life and public life, between the inner and the outer. Those of us who have read ancient Indian histories will remember that during the Vedic age, nobody made a distinction between spiritual life and worldly life. They embraced all in their vision. They spoke to the gods, they communed with the gods, not for their liberation, but for the welfare of the general humanity. They said, think alike, live alike. They prayed that all people may have common thought, common hearing, common intuition in the heart. Now, this Vedic tradition of spirituality combined with the life of the world continued for centuries. Even later in the age of Upanishad, we hear of royal sages, kings who ruled their kingdoms as ideal monarchs, but they were also sages of unexampled purity. Doubtless, we have heard of the famous King Janaka. He ruled his vast kingdom as a model king, and sages from all over the country flocked into his court because he was known of his knowledge. Realized souls and sages came to him for advice, for wisdom, for corroboration of the wisdom they had attained. He was such a seer, a God-realized man. This model administrator of this great king was one day sitting conversing with Yajnavalkya, the foremost sage of those times, when someone came running, a messenger screaming, Sir, your palace is on fire. Janaka did not move. He continued the discussion. When he was reminded of the message, he replied, Vidulayam Pradiptayam Name Kinchana Daiti. That is, even if the whole Mithila were to be burned, nothing of me would be singed. That was his attitude. And because he had that detachment, because he had that spiritual consciousness, he exercised sovereignty over the entire kingdom without compulsion, and everybody respected the Dharma. The Dharma was greater than the king, and the king himself respected the Dharma. That was in the pinnacle of our civilization. We have today forgotten the Dharma, and this is the tragedy of our times. This forgetfulness of one's Dharma puts the responsibility on the spiritual people more particularly because they have same soul acquaintance with that with what the Dharma is, what was called Rita in the Veda, Dharma in the latter ages. It is for the spiritual persons, spiritual seekers of whatever traditions, who have a deeper knowledge of this truth of Dharma, who have known how to hold it aloft in their life to set an example to the other members of society by radiating the vibrations of the Dharma and truth. Surely, spiritual members are not meant to be parasites on the society. Those days are gone when moods and monasteries could maintain host of people to serve the temple deity. Today, the deity are not in temples, the deities are in the hearts of people. And it is the duty of every enlightened man not to speak of spiritually enlightened, to devote part of his time to the service of the next man in need. Even spiritual practices, if they are aimed at our own salvation, are selfish. Spiritually, one has to equip oneself as one has to learn MBBS, MD to become a doctor. Thereafter, the doctor should practice not only to earn money but also to serve humanity. True spirituality lies in equipping oneself to discharge the responsibilities of manhood from a level higher than the mundane. Spiritual people do not have to look and function through a circumscribed perspective. They have a larger vision. They are certainly, if they are truly spiritual people, capable of sacrificing their personal interest, personal cares, and devote themselves to God in humanity. Realization of God in myself is not complete unless I realize God in you all. To fail to do so is an incomplete spirituality. To serve God in the world around me is an indispensable step in the progression of spirituality. So, wherever the time or the energies to think and work for world unity, we say the world union has to start with a union around ourselves. We should throw our weight on the side of every progressive forum that demands our attention and help. We should convert ourselves in small groups to whatever persuasion we belong in vigilance squads, groups or committees whose factual information and guidance can be relied upon by the administration so that the administration is not fooled by interest reports given to them by wrong elements. So here again, we have to function not as Christians or Hindus or Muslims or Parsis or Jews. As people awake to spiritual values, we have to rise above these denominations and function as enlightened individuals, members of a society who have duty to each other. So maybe we are better circumstanced. Maybe we can get 2 meals without difficulty, but that puts an additional responsibility on us to see that other man also has something of this advantage. A spiritual man cannot afford to be colorless. He cannot afford to be insensitive. He has an awakened conscience that bites. He cannot speak untruth. He cannot participate in falsehood. He cannot function on an egoistic basis. This time the time has come today when it is the spiritual people, the spiritually awakened, who have to come forward and provide the core of a disinterested leadership. They do not seek power because they know the temporal power is of no real value. It is a soul power to which they have access and which they cherish. They should radiate that force. It is their duty. They have to find a way. They have to create a climate. If we are a writer, we have to create a mental climate upholding these values, the spiritual values in life, pointing out that they are not meant to be practiced in isolation, but to be applied in life, in everybody's life, at every possible level. If we are, if and we are an artist, we should utilize our art to the portrayal of this needed contribution from the spiritual man to the development of society. If a scientist our spiritual vision, our spiritual intuition should guide us, God, me to discoveries that will serve the noble future of man. That is, as far as the local perspective is concerned. In the national scene today, there is a crisis of integration, crisis of character, there is a breakdown of traditional values. People have forgotten the values. So, in international crises are a separate subject, very difficult. Spiritual people today can hope to turn the tide in our country. Whatever is said and done, there is still the intrinsic faith in spirituality. We have heard of communist leaders doing puja for 2 hours. They separate their political ideologies from their personal beliefs and faiths. Thus, in our country, whatever political parties may be power, the respect, the loyalty to spiritual values is ingrained in the race. And uh, in the Western countries also, the gods' aspirations are there. In India, to influence the events to turn out the tide in favor of sanity, if all the spiritual elements of the country would cooperate meaningfully, not in the sense of holding dialogues, conferences, where each one parades his own position, hoping to find loopholes in others and score debating victories. If some of us representing different spiritual traditions sit together and find common ground, meeting areas where there is no dispute and start cooperating, there it will be a good start. Outside India, it's difficult. There are ecological problems, economic problems, problems of European community, of Asian community, each with its own challenges. So, a spiritual man has a great responsibility. He has to react from every pore of his being from a basis of truth. He has no individual interest. As he progresses, as he widens in his consciousness, as he scales the heights of his being, his consciousness enlarges more and more, and he embraces the whole world in his consciousness. It is time that one learns to translate something of his inner realization in outer practice. This is the responsibility of a spiritual man. Now I will speak of some philosophy of life, that we must try to do our work as properly and as perfectly as we can. We must try to develop our mind, life, and body with proper culture and study to the maximum of their possibilities. We must try to keep a constant contact with our psych being by meditation or japa, prayer, or simply by remembering. We must try to keep ourselves open upward so that when the higher forces come down, they can enter into us and do their work. We must try to remain quietly happy all the time, and we should remain absolutely quiet in all parts of our being. We should aspire and call. We will get a response from God. We should place our problem before it and wait peacefully, and that direction will come from above. We have to receive it and implement it through our mind, life, and body. There should be no likes and dislikes and preferences. Help will come, the right man will come, the resources will come, the material will come, and the right action will take place. So, absolute surrender, no personal reaction, no personal preferences, and absolute detachment, and no fear whatsoever. And these are all I want to share, friends, about the responsibility of a spiritual man. And with this, I end my topic.